Hey, it's Joe here, and picked up this cable from Amazon, and I was just running some cameras for like some PoE IP cameras, for whole home security. Nothing fancy. I needed a 75-foot cable, and I saw these cables are on Amazon Prime and nice and inexpensive. So I figured, yeah, Cat5E cable, can't go wrong, right? Well, yes, you can. My initial impression, picking it up, it felt kind of light. Also noticed that it felt almost flimsy, like it's squishy, like it almost feels like there was something missing out of it. It actually almost felt like a Cat3 cable, like a 3-pair cable for an old phone system. And I just can't help but, I was just looking at it and looking at it. It's a 4-pair, Cat5E, big E. So I figured, well, what's wrong with this thing? Because when comparing against a normal professional cable like this Intellinet, this is a 75-footer. This is a 75-footer, and you can visibly see that there seems to be more cable here. There actually are the same length. I verified they're the exact same length. They are both 75 foot, and I mean, you could just feel this is. It feels much more substantial. You can actually see the casing is full of the cable. This, it's almost like the cable is almost empty, like there's something missing inside of it. It's like squishy because there's nothing filling in the volume of the actual sheathing. So just wondering, what's different? And upon my investigation, I found out everything about these two cables are different. I did a test of these cables earlier. I have it's an older unit, but it still works very well. I've got a cable certifier, certifies it to a gig. And these two cables, sitting on the desk side by side, didn't really seem to do any matter much. I started thinking, there's a big difference between, just trying to, certify a cable that's laying here on the desk. It's a whole other thing, certifying these cables in real-world environments. One of the biggest things that these things come in contact with is going to be noise-generating devices such as fluorescent lighting and whatnot. So I did a test. I used dividers here to make sure that they were the same distance away from the compact fluorescent bulb. This is a larger one, but still this is only like a 30-something watt bulb. Still pretty small compared to the typical light fixtures that you see in commercial or even home environments. So as you can see here, even though these things do kind of spec out, this is just one fixture in a 75-foot rung, especially in a commercial environment. You can actually see tremendously much more noise because you're going to be going over many light fixtures, not just one. So that was a big part of the test, is just showing the signal to noise ratio difference, as well as you can also see that it looks like this cable is actually shorter. Now, I mean, this cable is not 56 feet. Even though this validator says 56 feet, it's not actually 56 feet. It is 75 foot long. It is a 75-foot long cable. But what is interesting is, why is this one that's the same length physically? If I put this cable out, it's 75 foot. Why is this one the same length yet says 76 feet? On average, there's a little bit of skew there, but it's 76 feet versus 56 foot on average on this one. Well, how can that be? And the difference is this. As you can see here, this is the Intellinet cable, and one thing you can just see is how vibrant the colors are on this. You can easily see the difference in colors here. But as you can see, there's a lot of twist, and just a given amount of area, just in a few inches, you can see that there's a lot of twist here. Now we're going to go to this discount cable, and you can see there's not very many twists here. And in fact, about for every full twist here, there are several twists on this Intellinet cable. So what that means is that, because if you take a cable and you twist it, it's going to become shorter as far as length, because there's some wire being taken up and making a twist. The other thing is that, looking at it, nowhere on here does it tell you what gauge wire it is. On here, Cat5E standard is 24 gauge, and you can see right here that it is 24 gauge wire. for the conductors, 24 gauge by 4 pair. You can also see on here the UL listing, which is something that's also very important. As you can see here on these cables, there is no UL listing. The strain relief quality is noticeably different. The strain relief here, I mean, I can pull at this angle and it's extremely sharp. I mean, it's almost like this strain relief is basically doing nothing. I mean, that's a dead 90 degrees, and it doesn't come out hardly any at all, versus this cable. You can see here tremendous difference. I'm pulling at an angle. You can see the radius here is much better. I mean, that is an enormous difference. Same thing down here. You have a nice bending radius, and I'm pulling pretty hard on this. I mean, this is definitely a borderline abuse to this cable, but just to demonstrate a point that the strain relief works exceptionally better. I mean, this right here does almost nothing. I mean, you're pulling it at a very hard angle. That works a little better. It's still pretty acute. I mean, it does very little though. It's not very much of a strain relief, especially like that. I mean, I'm probably damaging this cable. So the other thing too is that I mentioned that the whole purpose of me doing this cable job was to run cameras. I mean, cameras can run a fair amount of power. They can be upwards of 12, 15, even 20, 24 watts, depending on what type and what standard they comply to. So that's a lot of power for this little teeny tiny cable. And I have a little bench meter, and it may not be a fluke, but it does prove a point that there's significantly more resistance on this cheaper cable than this cable. This is only 3 ohms per conductor. So remember, current flow has to happen in a loop. So that current has to flow to the device and then comes back. So the collective resistance for this one is 6 ohms, while this is over 32 ohms. I mean, that is significantly more, and because of that, you are greatly reducing the amount of power, because you can have a given switch, and you may calculate out, oh, I only need this much power of a switch, but because so much of the power is being lost as heat because of the resistance, now you're actually going to need to, you have to derate the switch that you have. If it says 48 watts, you're not going to get 48 watts to your cameras. Now the other thing I noticed on these cables is, I mean, you could see here that the diameter of the wire is noticeably smaller. In fact, I got my micrometer out, and there's definitely a noticeable difference between these two conductors. Now another thing I was doing is that I was looking at the end, and I noticed something very odd. If I look at a regular CAT5E cable, I can see the conductors on the end. And you should see this copper color, because these conductors are supposed to be copper. On this, it looks a little more silver. Just to test my theory, got my little razor blade out and start scraping the coating off, and lo and behold, it's aluminum. So aluminum has much poor conduction properties, and it's also softer. I can take this wire and I can easily just pull it apart. I mean, just very little effort. And look at this. Here, I'll try to do 2. Yeah, I did do 2 pairs. So let's see if I can do all 4 of them. See if I can He-Man it. I think I'm gonna cut myself. There we go. That hurt, but yeah. So now this isn't really all very scientific, but if I try to take a single conductor here, try to pull it apart, it does pull apart, but it's definitely more difficult to pull it. I know this isn't very scientific here. I can't do it. I can't do a pair, not without hurting myself. Okay, well, I think I pulled that out of the yeah, I pulled that out of the connector there, so that doesn't count. So I can't, yeah, it's gonna hurt too much. But anyways, the point is that there's not only is this copper, but I'm willing to bet that I know that at least one or both the insulation's thicker or the wire is a thicker gauge. I'm going to willing to bet that it's a little bit of both. But the other thing as well is that the sheathing on this is much tougher. I mean, it took significantly more strength to try to tear the outer sheathing, while this cable, I mean, it's almost like it doesn't even feel like cable sheathing. I mean, it's almost pathetic. It's like I feel like I'm breaking spaghetti. It's just very little effort to break this on these cables here. So I know it was a little long-winded there, but I just want to describe to you in depth. Just because you think that you're buying a cheap CAT5E cable doesn't mean that you are buying a CAT5E cable, because this is CAT5E. This is not. And you can see here virtually every single aspect of this cable is far inferior to this. Everything from the materials of both the insulation, the sheathing, the actual conductors, the strain relief, the connector, everything about this cable is inferior to this. And you can see it, and physically looking at it, holding it, you can see it when we do all these tests. I think that I pretty much killed this. This is garbage, and that's exactly where this is going, in the garbage, because that's all it's worth. Buy the more expensive cables because they're cheaper, because you're buying this once and not buying that and then buying this, because that's what you'll end up doing. So get the right thing the first time, and don't think that every CAT5E cable is the same, because they're clearly not.